Hi, Darren Mangum here, securities lawyer with the law firm of Mangum and Associates. Thanks for watching my YouTube channel. Wanted to hop on here today and address a very, very common question that I get, and it seems to be repeated over and over again. And so I wanted to just hop on here and address it. And it's a mistaken assumption that I get from a lot of new clients, entrepreneurs saying, hey, I don't need a PPM because I'm just issuing promissory notes. I'm just going to do promissory notes and I don't need a PPM. I'm just doing promissory notes, right? And so, and then I get to tell them of a client that I had about 10 years ago where he came this close, maybe this close, to going to prison over issuing promissory notes without any sort of other documentation, right? I mean, he presumed that, again, it's a false assumption out there that, hey, I'm doing promissory notes and notes are not considered securities. That's the farthest thing from the truth. Notes are securities and are always presumed to be securities unless there is a very narrow set of exceptions, right, to when a note it may be not considered a security, right? So even the definition of securities under the Securities Act defines what is a security. A securities leads out with notes, stocks, bonds, evidences of indebtedness. I mean, there's fractional interest. I mean, there's a wide variety of different types of securities, right? But it leads out with notes, right? Well, in the case of this client that I had, luckily we were able to convince the securities regulator that our client was not. Luckily, we were able to, we tracked down all the money, and all the money did go, in fact, toward what he had claimed to use the money for. They were presuming that he had just used it for a personal gain, but not for the business. But we were able to piece together a case that showed, hey, look, this is what he told investors. This is what he didn't have a PPM. The PPM would have solved all those problems, right? But they were coming after him with potential criminal charges, thinking that he had just taken all this money from people, right? Your PPM is your shield and protection against a criminal securities fraud claim, and also civil, right? Criminal and civil, right? Getting back to notes here, notes are always considered a security, okay? And therefore, you need to provide full disclosure under the securities laws. Require you to provide full and fair disclosure. That's what a PPM is for, private placement memorandum. There is a narrow set of exceptions. The Supreme Court has held that every note is presumed to be a security, and they're presumed to be a security, but they listed a very narrow set of exceptions, and I'll list those here. Number one, a note delivered in consumer financing, right? So if you're doing commercial paper and it's like a very short-term promise to pay, okay? That in and of itself is not a security, right? Number two, a note secured by a mortgage of a home, right? That's not considered a security, right? Now, if you fractionalize that note, that's considered a security because it's a fractional interest in another instrument, right? Just the issuance of the mortgage on a note, and many states have specific exemptions saying, hey, if it's a note secured by a singular property, right, and it's sold to another person, not fractionalized. If it's fractionalized, automatic security. If it's a mortgage note, and that's sold, then that's not considered a security. Short-term note secured by a lien on small business and some of its assets, right? Usually these are notes that are less than 9 months to maturity. Okay. Also a note, number 4, a note evidencing a character loan to a bank or customer. Number 5, short-term notes secured by an assignment of accounts receivable, right? Like, okay, we promised to pay within 30 days, bills of lading, that kind of thing. And then number 6, a note which formalizes an open account debt incurred in the ordinary course of business, kind of like a pay on credit, an IOU, and or due upon receipt. I mean, technically that is a medium of exchange or a debt that's payable, a note, but it's in the course of commerce and all that. And so those are very super narrow exceptions to being a security. And then the court goes on and discusses, hey, we're going to say these are all securities. Number one, if the purpose of the debt or transaction is to raise money for the general use of a business enterprise, then that is then that's clearly a security. In most cases that's the case. You're raising capital to go do something, and I'm issuing promissory notes to do so. It's a security, right? Is the note potentially tradable in the secondary market? That's a security. Is there a reasonable expectation that the instruments should be treated as securities? Is there some kind of expectation of profits on the part of the investor, right? So all of these factors, in addition to, and again, we're talking about presumption. I mean, you start out with the presumption that all notes are securities, right? Except for that very, very narrow set of exceptions, which, again, most people raising capital for their business enterprise, whatever, clearly they're securities, right? And so you need a PPM. You need one to protect yourself, especially if you're issuing promissory notes, convertible debt. If you're using the money to build your business and it's not one of these narrow exceptions, like you're not doing a consumer loan to somebody, and in that case, you're probably going to need to be licensed as a consumer lender anyway. You're not issuing a mortgage on a house. In that case, you probably need to be a mortgage lender, right? Or if you're buying, there's a lot of common cases where you're buying an existing, maybe a non-performing mortgage note, right? If you're buying fractional interest in those notes, then that's going to be considered a security, hands down, right? So anyway, again, the presumption is, and in fact the definition in the Securities Act is that all notes are securities unless they fit within one of these narrow exceptions as defined by the Supreme Court, right? So anyway, hopefully this will help. And again, when I get questions like that, I usually go through these same questions. But anyway, if you're issuing promissory notes, you definitely need a PPM. We'd be glad to help you structure for a very low cost. We can help you structure a promissory note PPM that allows you to raise the capital, issue the promissory notes, whether they're secured notes, secured by assets, they could be unsecured notes, they could be bonds, they could be lots of different types of indebtedness, right? We can structure debentures, different kinds of structures, but you definitely need a full disclosure PPM, and we can definitely help you with that. If you know of somebody that is looking to do financing this way, please feel free to share this video. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and watching this content. We hope it's helpful. And if we can help you in any way, please feel free to reach out, call me directly, or call my team. Anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.